Good morning, everybody. This is Van Hargis with Van Hargis Horsemanship. Appreciate you guys joining me over here on the ranch road. Again, it's a little brief drive we take each day from our house to the ranch. And by the time I get there, we usually have horses saddled up, ready to go and ready to get busy and make for a good, productive day. Today, I want to visit with you guys. It's probably going to be my last episode of this particular series on lightness and getting a horse light and what does that really mean. And I know it means different things to different people. The last part of this, I want to touch a little bit more on resistance. And by all means, we're always trying to avoid resistance. Not that resistance always is a negative thing, though, you see, because how can we as riders know how light a horse is until we feel how heavy he is? Not that I want him to be heavy, you see, but at the same time, I like the idea of that horse every once in a while being a little bit pushy, a little bit resistant, because number one, it gives me an opportunity to practice my discipline of not getting upset, not getting worried, applying just the right amount of pressure until that horse comes off of it, and also gives me an opportunity to show that I'm going to be more committed to that horse's success than he is. So whenever I feel a horse get a little bit worried, a little bit anxious, a little bit upset, I don't add more fuel to the fire. I just wait, hold whatever applied pressure we've applied at that point in time. We wait, we try to keep the task extremely simple, and then the very moment that horse gives us a little hint of coming off of that, then they learn from that moment. We release that pressure, they learn from that moment, and then they realize what good did the resistance do them. However, I still want to kind of do an evaluation. What caused the resistance in the first place? Most of the time, in my experience, resistance comes from the lack of understanding. That's why I mentioned earlier in the very first part of this series that we want a understood response without resistance. So when we ask for something and that horse is a little bit resistant, more times than not, it is because the horse doesn't fully understand what it is that we're asking. And or sometimes it could be a sign that they're a little bit bothered physically. They could be in a little bit of a pain issue involved. Either way, neither one of those things are positive. They're not going to lead to positive results. Therefore, I just need to be patient and understand that this horse is only doing what he's doing because it comes natural to him. With that said, I'm going to share a story with you that I had several years ago, and I mean several years ago, but I had an opportunity to work a clinic with one of our predominant trainers, I think, one of our predominant and first clinicians that I can think of, before clinician was a popular word. But I was asked to help out in this particular deal, and then my pay was I got supper that evening. Well, we were having supper, and the fellow looked at me, and he says, "You know, the horse is always right." And it seemed like it came out of nowhere. I wasn't expecting him to say anything at that point in time, especially not in regard to that. But he said, "The horse is always right." And I said, "Well, Mr. Ray, tell me what that means." Because in my mind, I'm thinking, boy, you've obviously not ridden some of the horses that I've ridden. But I didn't say a word. I had all the respect in the world for the man. I knew he was going to say something wise. So I just kept my mouth shut and I just waited. And sure enough, he said, "Well, the horse is always right because the horse is always doing what comes natural or what he thinks you want him to do. So either way, he's right. If he's doing what comes natural and you don't like it, it's up to you to communicate better to change that behavior. If he's not doing what's natural, but he's doing what you think you want him to do or what he thinks you want him to do, then you have to remember then, too, you've got to be a better communicator and more clearly communicate that which you want him to do." What I've noticed is when we think about that as we're working with a horse and as we're thinking about the process and we're focusing more on making ourselves more clearly understood, in other words, we have to really focus on being really good communicators, we then can help reduce the resistance. And if we can reduce that resistance, that means there's less negative stress for our horses. You see, so resistance isn't always a bad thing, but we don't want it to the point to where the horse is fighting, getting resistant, and we want to kind of get involved with that resistance. So what we want to do is we want to offer that horse a really, really good chance to come off of that pressure by being, number one, very clear and concise about what we're communicating to them. That in turn reduces the resistance. And then at the same time, being very quick to release. Remember what we said yesterday, where you release is what you teach. So think about that. Resistance isn't always a bad thing, but we want to do everything in our power to adjust for it, prevent it if at all possible, and then get it less and less. Okay? Resistance we want to eliminate, lightness and softness we want to expound upon, and we want to achieve more and more of that. Hope that little tidbit helps you today. I'm already here at the ranch and got to get out and open that darn gate. And appreciate you guys joining me on the ranch road this morning. Until next time, this is Van Hargis with Van Hargis Horsemanship.